All right, I figure I could procrastinate a little bit by just shooting a video of what LiBCM has become over the past 10 months. This is an unedited video. I'm going to shoot it in one take. If that is not interesting to you, then you can stop now. So first up, we have the final verification test area. This is where I test each PCB, plug all of this junk into it, and basically simulate it being in the car. There's a computer that's not there right now that does all of the testing. Here's my through-hole solder components and the two soldering irons I use. I've just got a regular single-tipped iron, and then I've got a double-tipped iron, which is really nice. And it has a bunch of tips you can add to it, so you can actually do like T-SOP rework in one foul swoop. Here is where I do all the actual soldering. Got a scope here, got a vent that sucks all of the air out. Got various fixtures to help me install connectors properly. So that's one of them. And then I've got two different test fixtures, I kind of skipped them a second ago, that show me that things are working properly. So that's one of them. This is another one that I test everything on. So every LiBCM PCB gets 100% test coverage. I've got some power supplies for that testing. The scope there is part of the test as well. Here's my computer setup that I do all the programming on. This is just kind of a general storage area. Right now it's got a LiBCM that would normally be over there when I'm programming it. And if we go out into the garage, here's where most of the work actually happens. So this is a table that I built specifically for LiBCM. Of course, it will have use in the future. So basically everything on this table and on this shelving unit there is LiBCM stuff. And kind of just go through it quickly. We've got some spools here. So this is the 4-gauge wire I use. It's held up by a nice old stout barrel that is no longer good for shooting. And then I've got, this is to make the Li display and the 4x20 display cables there. Got a couple rolls of that because that's like a 10-foot long cable. Up top we've got the aluminum end plates. We've got a stack of unfolded polycarbonate covers. We've got a smaller stack of folded covers. The top shelf is all the current cables. So for example, if we look here, this is two of the various types. Each LiBCM has 6 cables, but there's 2 different types. So there's however many cables, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 cables, and then of course the MCME conduit, which is empty. You put your own conduit in that. On the next row is kind of just all of my assembly tools. You know, on the right is more like reflow soldering stuff and, you know, conformal coating. This is all of the master parts. So if I need to make a part, I don't have to go back to a drawing. I can just pull this out, and each one has, you know, the wire length and whatever it is. So every part has it, and then I've got a sheet kind of with the actual drawings, various pens and pencils, ferrules, labelers, zip ties, sockets, heat shrink, drill bits. I made this nice little jig that will hold the LiBCM PCBs vertical, which is really nice. So you can just put it on here. I'll grab a PCB and we can see that. So you basically take the PCB, and I'm going to do it one-handed, and you slide it onto this dowel. It's easier to do with 2 hands. Anyway, you slide it on the dowel, and then you open it up like that, and then it'll stand up straight, which I didn't quite get to do with one hand, but that's okay. Right now, you can see that I'm working out the final details on converting an 18S to a 12S. I'm still waiting on a couple of parts to come in for the mounting solution for that, but it is, you know, wholly figured out at this point. I am also still waiting on the production connectors, so those will be here hopefully soon. As I posted already, I'm only shipping the 18S, 18S, 12S kits right now. So if you order an 18, 18, 18 kit, I can't ship that until those parts arrive, and then of course I have to make the harnesses for them. Soon that'll happen. This guy's pretty neat. This is a $1,600 crimper, but it is a really good crimper. I'm not quite crimping these cables at a level where I can pay someone else to do it economically. And of course, certainly not doing it at the level that I could, buy a $5,000, $10,000 machine that would do these very quickly. So this is kind of the compromise. It is a really nice crimper. I've never actually owned a $1,600 crimper before, but there it is. And then there are all my other crimpers up top that I use for various other things. One of the tools I found for this project, which I really think is cool, is obviously I've used these. Most people have used a wire stripper like that. But I've replaced it with this wire stripper, which is super, super nice. So you set it to a specific length, you set it to a specific wire gauge, and then you basically stick the wire in, and every time you squeeze this, it will strip the wire off. It is really, really, really fast. It's probably 10 or 15 times faster than using a traditional tool like that. Of course, if you're not cutting the same wire 5,000 times or whatever like I am, you don't need a tool like this. But anyway, that has saved quite a bit of time making the BMS cables, which take quite a bit of time to make. Yeah, over on the end here, got the 4-gauge wire crimper. This is specifically designed to crimp the 4-gauge terminals I'm using. You can see how the LiBCM becomes more of a traditional garage. We kind of built it right up to the edge here. Various, packing supplies over here and kind of empty boxes I haven't decided to get rid of yet. Underneath here is more of our like bulk wire. So, wire conduit. Over there I've got various types of batteries, etc., more conduit. And then over here is kind of where the bulk of the raw material goes. You can see we've got a box of power cords, box of USB cables over there. And then basically got a setup here where up top is kind of packaging supplies, although I was sad to see this morning that USPS discontinued this box. So the batch that went out today in those boxes, that will be the last batch that does that, unfortunately. But maybe it's fortunate too, because honestly shipping UPS is about $5 cheaper per box. But USPS is, I can literally walk to the post office. I have to drive to the UPS office, but whatever, that's fine. Up top, we've got various spools of parts. These are the coveted parts I've been hoarding over the past several months. So this is all resistors and op amps and everything else. And then this box is entirely capacitors here. So LiBCM uses a bunch of capacitors. So these are the it's crazy that I'm showing these off like they're a prized possession or something. Because normally it'd be like, who cares, you have capacitors. These have been hard to get. These parts, like all of this stuff has been difficult to get. I have it now. So that means we'll be able to continue making LiBCM for the foreseeable future. Got some cap cables back there. I've got a few thousand of those. Again, it's so weird to like show those off, but is what it is. This box here has about, I don't know, $40,000 worth of the LTC 6804 in there. So initially I was kind of buying them 100, 200 at a time. It's a $20 part, so it's expensive to buy. And then I finally decided, hey, let's just buy a reel. Costs more than a car. Anyway, so pick and place machine. I know I've talked about this guy before. It is working much better than my initial placement. I definitely took some time to get it a little more calibrated. Again, it runs completely open loop. Once it calibrates to this corner, it finds it's 0. After that, if it loses steps, it has no idea. Now, it hardly ever does that, but newer cameras, of course, have machine vision, and I guess newer pick-and-place machines have cameras that have machine vision on them. Maybe eventually I could convert this to it. I'm glad I haven't had to do it this time, because that's quite a project I don't really want to have to work on. So here's where I've kind of built a bunch of sub-assemblies down here. We'll just kind of do them in no order. In general, whatever's behind the box is replacements for it, parts where I haven't quite gotten them ready. So there's another box of these 4x20 screens behind that aren't ready to ship. Same with the sleeves, These are the parts that I hand place on the PCB because either they're too tall. This machine can only place parts 3 millimeters tall. or I just don't have enough reels. So like the 68 nanofarad cap, I should be able to place. This inductor, I should be able to place. But again, I've just kind of run out of reels. So, you know, I do hand place all these parts. It's okay. Trying to find my, interesting, my power supplies aren't in there. I must have moved them somewhere else. Those power supplies are super coveted, so wherever they are, I hope I find them. Here are more, you know, unfinished parts here. Got some PCBs with gloves. And then these 6 things are all of the parts that are used to build up in smaller quantity. So this one is box 1 of 2 for the kit hardware. So you basically get a bag with LiBCM that contains all of the parts you need to do the conversion. These are all the leftover stuff, including a couple of little tools there. And all of those parts are contained in this box and the box below it right here, or in various forms, you know, zip ties up there, tapes there. There's a process. It's not documented at all, but whatever. Over here is all the BMS cable kit. So if I need to make a BMS cable, I would use this. These are the crimps that $1,600 crimper crimps, and it does it perfectly every time when you do it. I'm not going to do it on camera here. I've already managed to break one of the dies on this, and the replacement die for it was $399. So I'm not going to do that one-handed on camera. You just got to trust me that that's a phenomenal crimper. Never really had a reason to get one, but in this case, I didn't want to have signal connectivity issues. This next box is Anderson connectors for the 15 and 30 amp for the grid charger. And again, we've got this terminal here that we crimp as well. And then this is just more of a standard terminal that uses a $30 crimper. Up next, we've got cable eyelets. So if you're gonna crimp the high current cables, that's this kit. And then we have PCB mechanical assembly. This is a heavy one, so I'm gonna just kind of dump it there. This is all of the parts required to mechanically attach the fans and the polycarbonate cover to the kit. I will mention that these red washers are no longer produced, so I bought all of them I could find anywhere in the world. I think I have all of them. Anyway, I really like this washer. It's a very clean solution. It holds onto the screws really well. I have enough to build like 1,000 LiBCMs with this washer because they're so cheap, and I didn't want to have to find another solution. You can see that once we pull this stuff out, you can see all the replacement parts behind it. So there's like a box of, you know, like 2,000 feet of ribbon cable, for example. Over here, we've got temperature sensors. So I've made maybe 100 or 200 of those are finished out. We've got power cables. We've got these BMS cables that take so long to build. These cables are so much work. It takes me just as long to build this cable as it does to build the PCB, or rather to build 3 of those, because you need 3 of them for an LiBCM. And then everything else under here is all just power supplies. I've purchased the world's stock of this specific power supply, and after doing so, the price of them doubled. So I have 180 of them now. I've got another 50 or so coming on the way. And after that, LiBCM will get more expensive because this was a $35 supply and it's now like $72 or something, just for the raw supply before I convert it. So we've also got 4x20 cables. So I don't have that many of those made, but that's what I'm making mainly with that crimper. And then got a box of the grid charger cables there. And that's about it. Oh, I've printed so many reels of tape. So to label all of the cables, each cable has various labels on it. This is an odd cable here. Most of them are a little more normal looking. You can see that this is Bay 1 Plus to the relay, and then it has the type of cable it is. It's a 48S all configurations cable. So I had to print out, I basically got my labeler, I set what I wanted, and then I just told it to print the same thing until it ran out of material. So I've got dozens of these guys printed out in various different lengths. The labeler has a memory feature, but when you replace the batteries, it deletes everything. So I stopped using it. But you can see that, again, we've just got all kinds of different labels there. And yeah, that's it. I've got my tools kind of stashed here. This glass is so that when I'm building PCBs, I don't snag on the wood underneath. makes it really easy to build the PCBs here. So I basically take them off here and I put the few hand placed parts. I've got to place again those like dozen parts or so, and then I throw it in the oven, and then I bring it into the first room I showed you and do all of the through-hole soldering. So basically that first room is where I do through-hole soldering and the final verification test, and I do everything else out here on this table. It's a very small outfit, but it works. You know, we're not building 1,000 of these units, probably ever really, but certainly not every week. So anyway, that is the state. Thanks for watching through. Again, there is no real content here. Just wanted to kind of capture how it exists at the beginning of 2022. So as always, thank you for watching, and have a good day.